Bodo Discussion, which is the segment on this channel where me and my two douchebag brothers, Brock and Mitchell here, discuss our opinions on movies. Yeah, we'll be
just douchebags.
Yeah, you guys kind of are.
Something? Oh, okay.
And today we're going to be talking about probably my most anticipated film of this year, Spectre. And for me, first, before we give you my thoughts on the film, let's talk about the hype and the marketing. Yeah, because for me, Spectre had a lot to own up to because it's a sequel of my personal favorite Bond movie, Skyfall, which was probably the best anniversary of a Bond film. It was both add the elements of being a love letter to the old classic Bond while still being a thrilling character study of Bond on its own.
Yeah, well, we were all pretty excited for this. I mean, Skyfall's one of my favorite movies. Skyfall's all of one of our favorite movies. We all love Skyfall. We all love Casino Royale. Quantum of Solace was...
Quantum of Solace could go to hell, for all I care.
It was pretty bad.
Yeah.
So, going into Spectre, we all thought it was going to be pretty great. You know, directed by Sam Mendes, starring Christoph Waltz as the villain.
In the trailer, who sold me in that trailer, which I still stand by that. That's probably one of the best teaser trailers I've ever seen.
So, all in all, the movie is about James Bond is given a hint at the very beginning of the movie to chase after some people who affect his past, and that leads him on a journey to go after a character named Oberhauser, played by Christoph Waltz, and that's what basically gets the plot moving, and that's what it's about. So, what do we think about it, Nick?
It was okay.
Yeah, it was all in all. It wasn't the best.
It was awesome. You guys suck.
What?
Brock likes, just so everybody knows, Brock likes every big movie to
That
ever
is
come
not
out.
true.
You probably like Fantastic
Cap 2
Four.
was fine. Fantastic Four sucked.
Cap 2 is fine. But back to the point. So, all in all, we were looking forward to it a lot, and we went in, and the opening scene is amazing.
Oh my god.
And then the song kicks in, and it's. I think all in all, the song's fine. The song
I
and
like
the
it a
visuals,
lot, actually.
all
The
in all,
visuals are good. With the
visuals were okay.
The visuals
All in
were
all, it was
fine.
it was flat. It was fine. The visuals
That
were
was like classic Bond.
I'll admit, it did bring a smile on my face when the gun barrel came back.
Yeah, the gun barrel back at the beginning. It's just this is the movie where they brought it back to being Bond in his Bondom prime. This is where Bond. He's not becoming James Bond anymore. He's not too old to be James Bond. He's James Bond in a big adventure. And with that, they brought back a lot of the same tropes and stuff that I don't know we needed. And that kind of brought the movie down. They brought back
for example,
a bit more... Oh, okay, no, go ahead.
They brought a lot more outlandish gadgets. They brought a lot more...
I wouldn't say that. I mean, the car had that. But
Yeah,
other
the
than
car
that,
did.
and there was an exploding watch. But that was it. That was
yeah,
the only
I'm
two
saying it
things I'd
compared...
say.
the villain's plan is mostly to take over the world using a surveillance system.
Not really. It wasn't really just take over the world. It was now they're gonna get the surveillance, but it was more
take
about
over
killing
the world.
workers.
Exactly.
Okay, let's get along with this plot. There's also in this movie there's a side plot involving the character of C, played by Andrew Scott.
My boy Moriarty from Sherlock.
Yes, of Sherlock fame. And is this spoilers or no?
This is spoilers.
This is spoilers. Okay, so right from the beginning, he's basically the guy who's trying to shut down MI6 because he thinks it's not important anymore. If that sounds familiar,
It's Skyfall.
It's
Skyfall.
a continuation of Skyfall.
It is.
It's
It's
the
the
rehab.
It's the Mendes movies.
It's what they did in Skyfall, bro.
It's the
that's just how
exact
it works,
same
though.
thing in
Oh,
Skyfall.
no,
but
hold
now
on,
it's
hold
more
on, hold
about
on, hold on.
surveillance. That as the
Oh, which
alternative.
Surveillance. That's
Yeah,
interesting.
we've never
Exactly.
seen a movie about commentary on government surveillance before.
Well, we've never seen a good one.
Cap 2.
Well, it was better in this. Cap 2 was just Robert
Yeah,
Redford
but they
being
did it
gross.
before in the last movie, and it doesn't matter. Nobody cares. You want to know what the problem of people saying MI6 doesn't matter? In Skyfall, it worked.
Yeah,
because the whole movie was about James Bond himself doesn't matter. So
Yeah, because he's
including-
getting old.
including Skyfall, including Bond, and the whole MI6 into that made sense. But with this movie, it's just we don't think it matters anymore, which...
We're just gonna
We don't
we're gonna
know.
cast.
We know it's stupid because we love James Bond, and James Bond's going to keep being in these movies, and you don't have to try to prove to us that he matters still.
Yeah,
We just want to see him kick ass. We don't care about surveillance, and I think that's where the movie loses a lot of steam is with this side plot.
But
And
we
really,
get to see like M and Q.
Yeah, omit
and
that
all
we
those
get to
guys,
see
like, working
people. I'm
together.
glad we get to see
Yeah, I'm
people.
glad that
but-
we do get that. It's
Yeah,
just
they-
that I wanted them to be
Well,
used for something much better, and I wanted Andrew Scott to be used for something much better.
Okay, so I think we can all agree performances around the board were good. When they
Yeah,
were in,
it
Dave
was-
Bautista was very cool as a
Awesome.
villain. The
Yeah,
train
it was
fight scene,
Oh my
Epic.
god,
It was
great.
It
It was
perfect.
awesome.
Yeah, like
So
it-
good.
the Daniel Craig, he's a lot more kind of humorous
Yeah, he's
in
a
this
lot more
movie. He's still
humorous,
great
though,
as
he's
James
still-
Bond, but he's
I think he's pretty
Yeah.
much a lot how he was in Spectre or in Skyfall.
Skyfall,
Like
he's
not as good.
I mean,
Mm.
I
because
still,
it's
I
slightly
still
worse
think his
script, but-
performance is still as best in Skyfall.
Yeah,
because for me,
definitely.
that's
But there's
what-
like so many awesome stuff that just only like,
Like
he
it-
can bring. Like he sees
yeah,
the
like he-
security guy, just kind of waves at him.
And like, yeah, I admit I did kind of chuckle the part when he's like, when they're in the hotel and he's got a gun pointing at the weird mouse and he's just like, "Who are you working for?" And which
Yeah.
leads to probably one of the biggest plot holes in the movie, which is how Bond is able to conveniently find this area.
yeah. Okay, so basically, let's look at the whole plot in general. Just flat out, doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, it's
At all. The
beyond
plot makes no
convoluted.
sense. Brock, let's start off. Okay, if we're going through spoilers, the first thing that doesn't make sense is how he finds the ring that
And-
he uses at the very beginning.
And conveniently, all the villains from the past Craig movies, like Lashif, Dominic
they're all in an
Green,
organization.
Silva, and all
And
those
even
guys.
Silva, that's how he got the jobs.
Well-
No, okay, yeah, but why? The thing is, Q says that just by looking at this ring, he says they're all connected, and they're
Did-
only connected to James Bond's past villains, which kind of doesn't make sense.
Yeah,
Because you can't
so-
use DNA.
So
You can't
No,
use
I'm saying they've
DNA
all
to
been
just.
interacting with it multiple times.
Yeah, like-
each person.
yeah, by the power of plot convenience.
This movie is filled with plot convenience. Every single step that each person that James Bond takes in his hunt is, for one, is it not really about him and not a personal story, but it doesn't make
Becomes-
any sense. It's
The
just
whole
like
thing is a
this
personal
happens.
story.
It really isn't as personal as they made you to believe because it's all about him just kind of following things that, for one, don't make sense, and for two, don't have a lot to do with him. So when you get to the finale of it, it doesn't really feel like it matters because it was never really about him.
Yeah, because
I think it was like, especially when him and Christoph Waltz are just talking at
yeah,
the end.
we'll
with the
talk
glass
about
in front.
Christoph Waltz a bit later on, but we're gonna continue with the
The plot, which doesn't, it flat out doesn't make any
Yeah,
sense.
and
It
then-
just
Definitely
doesn't.
does.
But if you look at the plot, it doesn't make
It's
a lot
pretty-
of sense.
Can we talk about the love interest?
Was
of
the,
Madame
um,
Swan?
That was the one thing
I'm
that
not-
brought it down. 'Cause They
Yeah,
tried
yeah,
to make
they
it too
crippled.
much.
Because I think what
If
the
it was
worst thing
just
about
them
this
just
movie
doing
was
whatever,
the
would've been
dialogue.
fine.
The worst thing about this movie was the dialogue.
I don't think so. No, the dialogue was great.
The
It was just
dialogue-
the-
What do you
mean?
dialogue Madeline Swan had,
Hers
she
was
just kind of.
Yeah, I just felt like every
Yeah.
time she showed up, her presence kind of like shot the movie in the leg.
Yeah, I'd agree
I
with that.
don't think so. It's just they tried pushing it a little bit too far.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
so-
like, oh yeah, I'm in love with you and all that stuff. They just pushed
Why
it a little
does
bit
she
too far.
all of a
That's the
sudden
only
fall
problem
in
I
love?
have.
She goes from like in a couple of days not
Yeah, they just
decide-
didn't
become
pace it
being
well.
like a pacifist, like I don't like guns, and then all of a sudden in a couple of days she's like I love you, James. When he's getting towards on the weird.
Yeah, they tried to force like this is the person that James Bond loves out of this like completely random person.
Yeah,
and it's
who-
like
Yeah.
they
There's
don't
been another
connect.
person he, like,
Okay,
sleeps
for him
with
to say
and
like
goes.
he loves her, it has to be at the same level that he had a relationship with Vesper, and it's not even in the
not.
same realm. So
because
it's
they've known each other
No.
for just one movie.
it's not that they knew each other. Them and Vespa, they loved each other.
Yeah,
and they
they-
knew each other over one movie.
Exactly.
The fact
They
is, the
spent
dialogue
multiple
wasn't good enough between them that you
wasn't-
could build any kind of relationship. And the movie was never about their relationship. So when they tried to sprinkle stuff in at the end, where like
Exactly. Like
happened.
they still could have like had them like going away at the end in the Aston Martin. They didn't have to be like in love.
Yeah,
It
but-
could have just been like the girl he's gonna hang out with after.
Yeah,
let's go through what the plot. Let's kind of go through plot point by plot point to see what was good and what was bad in the movie. So the movie's opening scene is
Awesome.
the opening long take is one of the best. Is the
Yeah,
best
it's
part
It's
of
a
the movie.
really good shot movie.
Yeah, it's
that's the
basic-
thing too. Like Sam Mendes,
Yeah,
I
it's
like
much
his
like-
directorial style maybe more than any other Bond
Yeah, he
director.
does.
Just the
he is
way
probably
he
like
directs it.
the best. He directs probably the best
artistic.
looking Bond films because he makes Bond films more look like art rather than action movies.
Exactly.
I'll admit Martin Campbell is probably like in a close second because he's the one who kind of feels like he really understands the Bond character and how to evolve in our times.
Characters.
All right, so I'll admit one of my big things with James Bond in this movie is that he goes through no character development in this movie, because I felt like this movie was going to be more of like him showing even more of like more of his tragic side that we saw a bit in Skyfall, like and Casino Royale. Since this movie, building up from the opening song by Sam Smith, is going to be focused more on Bond's failures.
Yeah, I think this movie, a lot of people are saying that they had nowhere else to go with Daniel Craig as Bond, and although I don't agree with them, they didn't take him anywhere else. They didn't do even Quantum of Solace, which I think this is a better movie than Quantum of Solace. Even Quantum of Solace tried to move the character in another direction, where Spectre was just like, we've done everything we have with him, let's just kind of make a fun movie that doesn't have much to it.
Yeah. But see, that's the thing. It did, though. It was about him. Finding his brother.
What? Oh God, his brother. Like, we're not going to talk about his brother until the end of the review.
Oh,
because the movie.
I'm gonna rant about his brother.
You guys are both wrong.
He's going to.
I will.
Not wrong.
It's going to be about like it's going to be about
wise.
incredibly long rant. I'm gonna try to keep myself in control and just talk about how much they wasted the awesome Christoph Waltz.
Well, it was just
speaking of incredibly
that
long.
Character.
This is an incredibly long movie. That
Exactly.
I think plot-wise, it has like almost too many acts. Like it goes from the opening scene to this place, then they go to this place. It just feels like they're just kind of checking off
Bond
spots.
and Madeline are at the hotel. That was pointless.
Complete waste. It
they're trying to do a movie like without compromise, rather than rather than cutting everything.
What do you mean
like,
without compromise?
Like it's a Bond movie where they literally said go and actually just make it with whatever you can. You know, like they don't do that with a lot of movies now.
Because the movies end up being way too long and poorly cut together.
Yeah, the pacing in the second half was a little off, but right up to the point,
movie
where
came
the second
to a
half,
screeching halt.
It did not.
It literally
just because there
it
weren't
just
explosions,
stopped.
you just weren't into it.
There were explosions. That's when we were.
Yeah, and I personally found the chase in the snow surprisingly kind of dull. And it was
But he was in like a plane going after the...
No, those were cool. They weren't as good.
How him and Jose Bautista's character,
Mr. Hanks,
not Jose Bautista, but you know,
Dave Bautista,
Dave Bautista. That when they were looking at each other, because it was kind of like Jaws and Bond. Like they knew it was. Like, they were just them were gonna go at it.
Yeah, it was and it went well, but I think basically structurally the movie is very flawed. But I think for me and Nick, neither of us hated the movie. Yeah, we're just going into it saying we were disappointed, and I think we definitely liked the direction. We definitely loved Daniel Craig as Bond. Mm-hmm. We definitely even love Q. We even love a couple moments like the scene where Oberhauser is introduced.
Yeah, that was
is one of the best Bond scenes ever.
Yeah, that scene sits there. It was so wonderfully shot, dripping with atmosphere, and Waltz is incredibly menacing. In fact, you could put me in those shadows, and I could be menacing.
That whole movie, they just use all this dialogue to just kind of over-explain things and not really have and try to develop emotion and fail. That movie, that scene, because it had so little dialogue, was so much better than like the rest of the movie.
Yeah,
I don't think they over-dialogued it.
I think they just had a lot of exposition, and when the few lines of dialogue where they really tried to make it count, it's like, oh, like that came out of nowhere. And I think some of the stuff that came out of nowhere is definitely Madeline Swan and James Bond's just complete love of each other.
I remember the first time when
they pushed
all of a sudden they just
the one thing
all of a sudden, like, for me, one of the biggest WTF moments is when, like, after they're done dealing with Mr. Hanks and he gets thrown on the train, they all of a sudden just start making out.
No, that's James Bond.
Yeah, that's how
literally
works.
James
Bond. They just
Bond.
went through an experience where they almost could have died. So why
that's
not?
James Bond. That's
exactly.
That's classic James Bond.
What were you expecting?
Again, it's just that again these are the. It just felt kind of odd to me how they're all of a sudden, making out even though
that's James Bond. That's what he does.
Look, regardless of I think that scene, which all in all I think is a pretty good kind of classic scene. I think one of the bigger problems with this movie is that it just feels like it's like kind of hitting on what other Bond movies have done and not doing anything for itself. Yeah, but it's
just going back to the old ones, like so many Dr. No flashbacks, like the facility that they were at, like the huge crater, and that scene with the meteor when he's just talking about it. That had exposition, but it worked.
It did, but
It worked.
there weren't a lot of scenes like
For me,
that.
a good comparison for these moments, and to me, you will probably disagree with me on this, is for me Star Trek Into Darkness, where there's times where it's trying to be so much on being like a love letter to the classic movies. It's not really adding an identity of its own.
As much as we disagree with that, I get it, what you mean, and yeah, I agree that applies to Spectre, because it's...
Spectre was made for like a classic Bond film.
Well,
That's how you can
so
tell.
was Skyfall.
There's so many things that, yeah, but this one was like even more like pushbacks to the old movies.
So I think if we look at it, we like we like all the good guys in this movie, but the villains. Let's start with let's say Dave Bautista. We all love him, right?
Yeah, he was great.
He was
He
badass.
was
He didn't
perfect.
have any terrible dialogue.
The only thing he did
one
say
line.
was just shit.
He had
Just
one line of dialogue,
yeah,
which
that
was
was-
like kind of.
I
But
personally
it
found it
didn't
kind of
ruin
funny.
I liked it. I liked it.
It was kind of... Yeah,
And then we
because-
have C, played by Andrew Scott,
Well-
who it's like from the beginning.
I knew from
He's
the
a bad
start
guy.
he's gonna be...
I thought it was
evil.
good though.
To be honest, why would
He
you?
was more obvious than Robert Redford.
He had a good line he had a good banter with James Bond at the beginning of the movie, but as it went on, it's like, yeah, he's a good actor and he can pull this stuff off. Why do you cast a guy who so clearly comes off as like a dirty little shit as the guy who's not pretending to be the villain? And then his motivations are so flawed because
They're
you look at
basically
him, he always ends up... At the end of the movie, he doesn't say he works for Spectre. He says he's working with them to develop like a greater good, which doesn't make sense because he's giving
They
like intelligence to an
Yeah,
evil
he's-
organization, so his motivations don't make sense.
Yeah, we'll
see
Him
that
really
being
odd.
surprising doesn't make sense, and he's just all in all like part of a generic character movement
Yeah,
as far
he's
as
just-
villains go.
Well, it would have made
Rebuttal.
more sense if they went into what Spectre was, and they did that in the
Yeah,
old
exactly.
movies.
Why
They're
didn't
like,
they go-
that's what it's about, and that's the one thing I could say they could have done better is that they should have gone into why
It's like-
Spectre is what it is, but instead they just said it's one
It's
organization.
an
doing these
organization.
types
They
of
do
things.
they do things like...
Otherwise, that would have made 100%.
I thought they built up Spectre pretty well without being able to mention them due to copyright issues over the other
Yeah,
movies.
yeah,
So I didn't think we
movies like-
needed more build up, but I
Most-
think the execution was pretty wrong.
Yeah.
And execution, Christoph Waltz in this movie.
He
We're
was
gonna let Brock say what he
Yeah,
thought
let
of
me
everything
go first.
involving his character.
Yeah,
from
let me just...
his acting execution.
And
Go
then
ahead.
can I go on like my little tangent about my thoughts on Christoph
Yeah, because
Waltz
I know
as
you're going to say
Oberhauser?
pretty much everything I'll have to say with maybe a bit more negative, and he's going to say all the positive stuff I have to say, so go
Alright.
ahead.
Christoph Waltz's first scene, as we already mentioned, was amazing. Just him standing there, like literally not even making a sound. And then this is one thing no Bond villain has ever done. He called him James, and he looked at him and he was like, cuckoo. And that, like, no Bond villain has ever seen him. That cuckoo thing, it was something they both knew. They both had
No.
mentioning of in their past. That's
Yeah,
why
like-
it meant so much to each one of them. That's why, like, James Bond literally just sprinted out of there. He didn't stay to try to fight. And there was a huge legitimate hatred between the two of them. And then the meteor scene, where he's just talking about what it was and like what it meant, and that was good symbolism for what Spectre was about. And that was
I agree
great.
with that. Yeah, that was a pretty good scene for the most
And it
part.
made
sort
Madeline
of.
Swan actually a part of that, like, that group there. Because before she just kind of seemed like an awkward thing to just tag on to those two going at it, but there he actually included her. And then, even after that, they, like, when he was torturing him, that was a great, like, James Bond just clearly didn't want to listen to him. Like, he was like, yeah, nothing worse than hearing you talk. And you could just, and you saw the cat, and you're like, oh, there we go, that's Blofeld. And it felt like James Bond. That was the thing. And the great thing, too, the best part, by far, was when him and Blofeld go to the old, and I love it was in the old MI6 building. That was the best
That was really cool.
part.
That was great.
He hunts him out, and he's literally, it's like Doctor, or not Doctor, well, Doctor No 2, but it's like the man with the golden gun where the Bond things are flashing on, like, the old firing range, and he just sees the pictures of all the dead people he cares about, and he goes through, turns the corner, he sees him, and he just fires at him without any type of hesitation, and the glass there, and they just talk about what they've been doing to each other, and Christoph Waltz is like his brother. He knows what buttons to push. That's an amazing line.
I think
in the movie.
Yeah, to the movie's benefit, at its best moment, it's very Bond, and at its worst moments, like to its detriment, it's very Bond. So to benefit the movie, it's very James Bond, and then some of the worst parts about it are like also too much James Bond. It's really confusing.
I don't think you can get too much James
It's
Bond.
it's kind of like an
our
abusive
realistic setting,
relationship,
but
like,
with James, but like it's in our like
you-
realistic, but we have all the James Bond stuff.
And
So it's the best of the two, and I'm still
Let-
not done talking about Christopher. I've got one more.
what's going on this all?
But like, and then when he gets him down and like finally corners him, and like he's like, do it. He stares him in the scar, looks perfect there, and he just decides, you know what? No, I have better things to do. Like I don't have to kill him. And it's not just about like, he has better things to do, but like I can move on from this. You know, I don't need to be obsessed with killing this guy. And then
Yep.
he just leaves.
And then he just leaves him.
That
in
makes
the
sense.
most
They were kinda-
anticlimactic
The
ending.
pacing problem was that the ending was awesome. It was classic Bond, but the one problem is that there was almost 2 climaxes. You know, and I get that was kind of one of the jokes is that it was like that it's not over yet, and the huge building blows up like a classic movie. But there were 2 endings, and that kind of the pacing seemed a bit off. You know?
Yeah, the pacing was off at the very end. Even though
Yeah,
I'm
the
just
pacing
like,
was
I wanted
was
to
way
end
too
the
second
second
ending.
rush. It was
I just
Jacob
wanted
Elio.
the very end to seem like, because I was pretty sure based on what happened that it was the final movie in Daniel Craig. So I wanted like the very ending to be like, okay, at least that's cool, and we sort of got that.
I
Even
think
though
we did.
it wasn't as cool as
Came back
endings
to
of
the
the other
car.
movies, it was still cool enough. But you said your opinion on Christoph Waltz in the movie. I don't think I'm gonna need to say mine after you guys cover the entire spectrum.
just
But
kinda-
I will.
They
Go
just
ahead,
kind of
Nick.
said like, but he can move on from not having to like hate him. He just
Brock?
because he was obsessed with going after.
Let's
that.
all
Like,
just
there
be
was so
quiet
much
and
hate
listen
there.
to
Everyone
what
be
And he
quiet
could just
because
he could let it go, and that's
Here
how
we go.
Daniel Craig could let it go and no longer be Bond.
All right.
Go Super Saiyan.
yeah. There. My hair's turned yellow now. I am now a Super Saiyan. Now, let me talk about the thing. Is that for me, the big reason why I was so pumped for this movie was Christoph Waltz as the villain. Because I have been such a huge fan of this guy. I loved him in Django Unchained. I loved him as Hans Landa in Inglourious Basterds, because right when I saw him, I knew that he was destined as like a Bond villain.
He's going to be for many years.
He's been. Yeah, and when we finally, and I'll admit, during the scene when he's like in the opening, the scene when we were first introducing him, where he's in the shadows in the Spectre meeting, he's great. He's eerie, he's menacing, and he has a great presence. And I'll admit, I think Christoph Waltz did a really good job, and I have nothing wrong with how he portrayed him.
But
But I do have issues with how he's written.
But his dialogue was so good, and he played it off by just being menacing.
His
but
dialogue
wacky.
His
was
dialogue was.
batshit terrible.
Let me just
I
get this out of the way.
disagree.
Christoph Waltz did a great job and
What
got
you
him
said.
So just go
for
why you hated
only
his dialogue.
15 fucking
How
minutes.
classic
Yeah.
Bond villains are. They're always kept at the end, like Doctor No or Man with the Golden Arm. They're always kept in the shadows at the end until that final
Did you see the
confrontation.
man with the gold?
He
That's
was
another
there for-
video. Yeah, keep going.
Okay, let me
Or
just.
Goldfinger.
Goldfinger was
He
there
was
throughout
still
the
left
entire
out.
movie.
Okay,
Alright,
he was still
so
left out, but like Doctor
why
No,
is
most of
Christoph
the old
Waltz-
Bond villains,
Why is Christoph Waltz?
like Blofeld and all the old ones, he's pushed
Okay.
to the end.
Shut up, Brock!
I think the reason he's bad, let's just say, is that the twist of him being Overhauser or Blofeld. I think
He's
you can
Blofeld.
explain. Yes, and it's really well acted. But I think the problem with him is that they just throw in that he's Oberhauser at the very end. They're like, "Oh yeah, I was your brother." At the very end,
Yeah,
when
he
it
just-
doesn't matter anymore, and it
doesn't
doesn't even
matter
make
anymore.
sense
He just-
anymore. So it's just like, I'm an evil villain. I'm gonna kill you, and then at the very end, James Bond's like, "Wait, why?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, because I'm your brother."
Because
I'm your brother?
Daddy didn't love me.
Yeah, I think the
It's
fact
just
that-
like in Austin Powers, where like his daddy like abandoned
Yeah,
him.
but it wasn't about killing him. It was about literally just like driving him crazy and then killing him. That's why he killed him. That's
but
why he tortured
why,
him. That's
why
he,
do they need
he
to
wanted
be
to kill him in
related?
the old
Why do
MI6
you need
building.
to force? I think that's just a lazy
That
way
was
to
the
do
heart
it.
of their relation. Otherwise, rather than just like,
Heart?
he's a random, just evil villain.
That's. I
named
think it's
Blofeld.
better if Yeah, but the whole point of James Bond and Blofeld, like in the novels and in everything, is that they were rivals because James Bond was the best secret agent out there, and Blofeld was just trying to screw up the world.
Yeah,
it's not because they're they don't need to force another reason to connect them on it. I don't know why they needed to do that. I think they could have just done it.
Because then Blofeld would have been cheesy.
I know. To be fair, I do kind of have a way on this.
This one,
he came off just.
Yeah.
Like, come on.
They're off like Bond movie villain.
And
Walk the Line.
All in all, Christoph Waltz, although he played the character well, I think we can agree that he didn't come off as menacing as he could have, and
he's nowhere near as menacing as he was in Inglourious Basterds.
His dialogue was, all in all, not the best, and I think all of his character moments at the end of like each scene, like the scene where he's like, "Oh, you're my brother, cuckoo," that's a random reference that he wouldn't understand.
Why would
because it relates a cuckoo bird with the fact that, like, when parents come in, when other child come in, like, on the family, like, I can't remember what the reference is, but it's something to do with, like, how birds interact with each other. He wouldn't understand that at the beginning of the movie.
Yeah, like, that doesn't make...
Well, he understood it, though, like, right when he said it, because they both clearly talked about it when they were kids.
With the whole cuckoo bird, the fact is, that reference, every scene that he was in outside the opening scene kind of had a wait, what moment to it when he was, like, with the cuckoo bird, it didn't make sense. With the fact that he was related to him, it just came off as cheesy.
But it wasn't
the fact
that they were
he
related,
didn't kill him, or the fact that they were brothers, it didn't make sense. And it all came off as they were trying to touch on 48 different things with Blofeld when they should have really just focused his character up and given him a much beefier role in the movie. So he turned out being pretty much one of the like worst villains. Like,
now, I'm going to go on a bit of a rant now. Since
you've done that a couple times.
Yeah, my problem with Christoph Waltz as Blofeld in this movie is that he comes across more as an Easter egg and for the old movies rather than an actual character. He's just... Because throughout the movie, there's times where they focus so much on paying homage to the old Blofeld, like he gets the scar, and I'll admit the scar does look really cool and everything, and it does look kind of cool, but some of his dialogue was really dumb, like when he says, "I'm the author of your pain," when you realize when you realize that he's been orchestrating the events of Casino Royale, Skyfall, and Quantum of Solace.
Which would have been cool, but it didn't...
See, this was the arc that Quantum of Solace was supposed to have, him moving on.
It didn't make sense because they just said, because he has a ring, and we're just going to say that they all connect, which doesn't make sense through Spectre.
That's not the best signs, but
it was bad.
Why couldn't...
It wasn't a perfect reason. It wasn't a great one where like it was well thought out, but you could buy it. In the movie, you could buy it.
Okay,
they were all part of organizations before. You could just
final thoughts on Spectre. Let's get it from the ultimate fanboy right here, Brock Bodo. What are your final thoughts on Spectre?
Okay, it's not nearly
what's your final
good
grade?
As Skyfall or Casino Royale, but it's still in the top tier of Bond movies. It had all the stuff we love. It had all the great characters, and it had great dialogue. It was really well written. Mendes can still direct Bond movies near perfectly, especially just how they look. They look amazing.
Yeah.
Like, he is just amazing at that. And overall, Daniel Craig killed it in what's probably his last James Bond movie, and that's why he's definitely the best James Bond. It's probably about an A-. I'd say that, because the pacing's a little bit off at the end. They tried to shoehorn the love with Madeline song, and they could have just had her as another Bond girl.
Hey, I have a question to ask.
That's my thoughts.
Do you want to know how important was it when Blofeld said that he killed his dad because he didn't love him?
It came out of pretty much nowhere.
Basically just, my daddy didn't love me.
Yeah, so Nick, what's your final thoughts on the movie, and then your grade?
Overall, I found this probably my most disappointing movie of the entire year. I felt, for me, well, I think there are some moments of greatness, like the scene with the opening, the gun barrel, Daniel Craig as Bond, Q, and some of the nods to the old movies. There's times, and there's some of the things that really hurt, like the forced romance, the plot holes, the the at times overuse of CG, which I'll go deeper into
There's,
more
like,
when I go
no
when I go
CG.
into part 2, where it's mostly just gonna be me talking about my issues with the film, since you guys were interrupting me, and my.
Did you say that?
Anyway,
I'm
what's
sorry,
your
guys.
final
Yeah.
grade?
And the villains were especially Christoph Waltz were incredibly underutilized.
Anyway,
So for me, it was an okay film, but as a follow up to Skyfall, it's pretty disappointing. And that's why I'm gonna give Spectre a C plus.
Yeah, I'm gonna probably. You guys, Brock said A minus. You said C plus. I don't think it. I definitely don't think it's as good as Brock said, but I don't think it's as bad as you said. I think all in all,
I don't hate the movie. I'm just
It's-
disappointed. By
I think
it.
all in all, I think it's closer to a good movie than a terrible movie. So that's why I'd say I'd give it, with all the good scenes added in and all the things that kind of lessened the movie. I'd say all in all, it's a B minus because it has some great moments, but it's also a very sloppy movie. And speaking of sloppy things, this video is over 33 minutes long, so we're gonna have to end it off here.
All right.
better than
So
Quantum.
subscribe
Yeah,
to
it's
this
better
guy's
than Quantum.
YouTube channel.
Woo!
And we'll probably be coming back with some of these pretty soon, I think. I think this is going to start to become a more regular
Yeah.
thing. All three of us just yelling at each other, interrupting each other over the camera.
Yeah, exactly.
Star
So-
Wars review.
With
Yeah.
that in mind,
the
we'll see you for Star Wars, but until then, subscribe to the... What is it called?
world of
Bodo.
Nicholas Bodo.
Yep.
Do it.